Hello, and welcome to our first episode of Your Big Creative Life for 2025. Hope y'all have had a wonderful holidays and a really good new year. I just want to explain real quickly, the end of December, we did not have a Q&A episode because I was sick. It was the week of Christmas and New Year, and I just could not record a podcast episode. So it was a re-release. That's why. So the Q&A episode will resume this month in January. We're going to do a Q&A episode the last Tuesday of the month. So you can submit your question at the link in the show notes. There's just a form where you can submit any question that you want, and I will answer it for you on the podcast. So again, that'll be happening the very end of January. The last Tuesday, we'll be back on our regularly scheduled programming for that. Also, just a reminder, if you are not following me on YouTube and you would like to, you can do so. It's Katie Wolf Writes, the same username. As of the time I'm recording this episode, we still don't know about the TikTok ban. It's set to go into effect unless the Supreme Court hears arguments and rules against it. So we'll see what happens. But and also Instagram, if you aren't following me on Instagram, Katie Wolf Writes. Okay. I recorded a TikTok and a reel that I posted about ins and outs of 2025. I don't know if y'all have seen that. People do like little recaps. They're like, these are the things that we're saying yes to and bringing in to 2025, and these are the things that are out that we're leaving behind. We don't want anything to do with in 2025. So I did a writing edition, but some of the things on there, like I didn't really explain, and I thought it'd be fun to just do a deep dive into it, and to also just share a little bit about, you know, the intentions and goals that I'm setting for this year, for 2025. I always think it's helpful for us as writers, as creatives, to kind of examine the previous year and see what went well, what didn't go well, and what kind of intentions do we want to set for this coming year. Last year, in January of 2024, I made this declaration on the podcast that this was going to be my year. 2024 was going to be the year that I got a book deal. I was done waiting. I was claiming it. And that did not happen. So going into this year, I feel a lot more peaceful. Well, as of the moment that I'm recording this episode, it always changes. But as of right now, I'm feeling a sense of peace about things in my not yet even established author career. I feel a sense of peace about it because I wrote this book. I have sent it to my agent, and it's going to take her a while to get back to me, I'm sure, with notes, because I sent it to her right before the holidays. But I feel good about that. So that's a possibility for this year. And I also just kind of trust, I think, a little bit more that, like, I don't know why things haven't happened for me yet that I have been working on for years and trying and calling in. I don't know, but I trust that there's a reason, and I trust that the timing, it just has to be right, that there's a timing piece of it. And I think that's true for a lot of us. Like, you know, you can look back at something that didn't work out or something that worked out, but it took a lot longer to come to fruition than you expected. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times there is that ability to look back and see, oh, okay, I know, I can see now why that didn't work, or I can see why it had to happen at this precise moment instead of previously. So that might be the case for me. I don't know. I'm staying open. And I'm going to see what happens. Something that I did, I'll share this ritual real quick in case you want to do something similar for 2025. I saw a video on TikTok that was a woman sharing a practice that you can do for intention setting, goal setting, energetics of a new year. And the concept is that and I didn't save the video. I watched it a long time ago. Well, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But I didn't save the video, so I can't give her credit, but maybe I'll look for it and post it in the description of the episode if I find it. But she was talking about how what she did last year is she wrote down 11 things that she wanted to call in for the year, like 12 things that she was working on, like, going on a big vacation, planning a retreat, making this amount of money, whatever. And then she would tear pieces of paper. So every little intention or goal was on its own sheet of paper. And then she rolled them up really, really tightly, put them in a bowl so she couldn't tell what was what. And then one by one, she would put those into a fire. And she would just say, okay, like universe, source energy, God, whatever you believe in, show me where I need to focus my energy in this new year. And whatever one slip of paper she's left with, that was the thing that the universe really wanted her to focus on that year, which for her turned out to be a bit surprising. It was something that she wasn't expecting. But then at the end of 2024, she could look back and see, oh, by focusing my attention on this thing, it kind of had a cascading domino sort of effect where all these other things then happened. And I thought that was such a cool idea. And I honestly can't remember if it's 11, if you do 12 things that you want to call in for the year, and then you throw 11 of them into the fire and you're left with one, or if it's 13 and you throw 12 in. I did this with my mom on Saturday night. My mom was visiting for a week for Christmas, which was amazing. And we set a fire. We did a bonfire in the backyard and each wrote down 12 things. And we didn't share it with each other. We just did this silently, and we tore them up into pieces of paper, threw the paper into the fire, and then whatever was left was the thing that we were going to focus on. And I want to share what mine is with you because it kind of surprised me. I almost was like a little bit disappointed because I had big things on there, right? Like getting a book deal, like making a certain amount of money in my business, or like from brand deals, like becoming also a full-time content creator was on the list for this year because I love posting content. And I want to be like an author content creator. I think that would be really cool. So anyways, there were other things on there that were bigger. And the one that I was left with was get clear on my vision for my future and my personal brand. Like that was the sheet of paper that I was left with, because that is something that I want to work on in 25. I think I've been a little bit all over the place with what I want for the future, partly because I haven't gotten a book deal and it hasn't happened for me yet. And so I'm like, well, shit, I've just been questioning everything now. Like, because this isn't working out, what does this mean? And I've also been in a lot of fear. I've shared about this before. I've been in a lot of fear about AI and the future of editing and the publishing world, and just wondering like what my future looks like as a freelancer. So yeah, that was something that I put on a list that I wanted to work on in 2025. And that's the thing that the universe apparently wants me to focus on. So I'm like I'm recording this episode on New Year's Eve on December 31st. And I'm going to do some work either tonight or tomorrow, New Year's Day, on like sitting down and getting really specific about the things that I actually want. Because sometimes my brain will tell me I'm confused, and I don't actually think I'm confused about what I want. I think it's just doubt creeping in that makes me feel like I'm confused, but I'm not. I want a book deal. So that's a ritual you can try. And I believe there was some debate in the comments, because I looked at the comments of the video. She wasn't sure where this practice came from. And I was looking in the comments, and there was some debate about this being an indigenous practice, or maybe, I'm not sure. So I definitely need to look and see where this came from, because this woman didn't come up with it, and I want to give credit for whoever came up with this practice. But I really liked it. Okay, so my 2025 intentions and goals are still the same, in the sense that, yes, I want a book deal, but I'm also having a sense of peace and trust about it, that I can't predict the timing. It's going to happen when it's right. I have an amazing literary agent. I feel solid about this new book that I wrote. We'll see. The other thing is really focusing on my efforts as a content creator. I've always felt a bit of embarrassment sharing about this, because it's not I feel like it's not normal for people to feel this way. Like, so many creatives hate social media. They hate creating content because they'd rather just be focusing on the thing that they are doing, like creating art or writing a book or whatever. But the truth is, I love creating content. Like, it's what I think about more than anything else, in terms of what I spend my time doing. And I've been holding myself back because I feel this internal struggle about, like, well, you have a business, so you shouldn't post certain types of things. And like, you need to have, you need to be stick in your niche and only post writing content. And I've had a back and forth about this for a long time. And add in some fear of being seen. I mean, it just creates this shitstorm of mental chatter. that I really need to get over. But I would really like to put myself out there more as a content creator who, yes, I'm a book editor. Yes, I work with writers as a coach, but like, I want to be creating a lot more content and maybe getting some more brand deals in 2025 and expand the kinds of brands or companies that I'm working with that are not just writing brands. And it feels scary to say that because I don't want it to seem like I'm shifting completely what I'm doing, but that's honestly what I want. And I think for a while I just was denying that. So that's part of the whole like getting clear on what I actually want, getting clear on my vision that the universe wants me to focus on. So we'll see what that looks like. That's something I'm going to spend some time on tonight or tomorrow, like thinking about a little bit more. So, yeah, I guess that's what I want to say about me in 2024 and 2025. So let's get into the ins and outs for the writing community. Short writing sprints. I'll go through the ins first. Short writing sprints. There's still this belief that so many new writers have where you have to write for an hour or 2 hours every single day. And if you don't do that much writing, it doesn't count. You're not going to make progress, whatever. And I just want to normalize a 10-minute writing session. I want to normalize a 5-minute writing session because something that's so magical about a short burst of time is you can really focus for that. My attention starts to wander after 20 minutes. Like I just cannot sustain a long writing sprint. Now, sometimes I have to do that because of whatever reason, I can, but I just feel like I'm not as productive and efficient when it goes for longer. And in 5 minutes, when the timer's going for 5 minutes, if you just go as hard as you can, like running sprint, in a sprint, you're running as fast as you can. It's not a sustained thing that you have to do for an hour or 2 hours. You are sprinting as fast as you possibly can. It's the same thing with writing. Writing as quickly as you can for that 5 minutes, those 10 minutes, whatever, and making a lot of progress that way. So I want to normalize short writing sprints. Number 2, ritualizing routines. There is something so magical about having a ritual around writing. This is something that I used to do when I would do writing sprints a lot, where I would write a candle, I would get a certain drink, I would do all of these things to make it a ritual and clue my brain in that it's time to write and we're doing all these steps because it's time to focus. I've gotten out of the habit of that a little bit. I mean, I always am drinking something, so I always have a drink with me, but just like romanticizing it a bit, I have some Christmas lights, like some string lights up in my office that maybe don't look super professional. I don't know. Maybe they look kind of cheap. I don't care. I love it. I love it in here with these lights. I'll probably keep them up. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take them down actually. Because I like having like a cozy vibe in my office and when I'm writing. And so just any way that you can like ritualize what it is, partly because it makes it more fun to like set the tone and the vibe, but because it also clues your brain in again that it's time to focus, it's time to write. It's like you have all these little signposts for your brain about what you're doing that makes it easier to actually do the thing. Number 3, radical self-compassion for all creatives. There's so much garbage that our inner critic will tell us as writers. There's so much. We beat ourselves up so much. We pass judgment, we compare, we despair, we feel self-doubt. We feel like we're not doing it the right way. There's all of this stuff that just swirls around in our brains. Not for everyone, not all the time, but it does happen. And I just feel like one of the best ways to combat that is radical self-compassion. Placing a hand on your heart, placing a hand on your gut, just giving yourself some physical touch and reaffirming like you are okay. You are safe. It's not scary to do this thing, like to write a book. You're protected. Thanks for sharing whatever the fears are, but like you can shut up now because everything's okay. And also being like, of course, like it makes sense that you would feel this self-doubt. It makes sense that you would feel this fear. But we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it anyway. So radical self-compassion. Number 4, on the ends is dictating a book. I talked about this in my Writing a Book in 30 Days episode that I did a couple weeks ago on how I wrote a book in 30 days. And most of the book was dictated. It was incredible. And it allowed me to get a lot of words down quickly. So I think dictating, it's in. Let's do it. If it works for you, of course. Next up is less consuming, more creating content. I posted this because last night I'm trying to break this cycle of, in the evenings, I'm on my phone for like 2 hours. It's bad. I play this game that I have that I downloaded that I spend too much time on. I scroll TikTok. It's just like, it's stupid. And I'll even be doing that while I'm like watching a show on Netflix. I have my phone up. It's dumb. So I'm really trying to work on that for the new year. It's one of my like goals. But I've noticed that when I consume a lot of content on TikTok specifically, because that's where I do the most of my scrolling, it makes it very hard for me to come up with my own ideas. It makes it feel harder to create content. And it also just feels like I'm kind of at capacity because I've just, so much content has entered my brain. I've taken in so much information, so many opinions, so many different styles of videos that it gets hard for me to like determine, well, how should I say this or what should I create? It gets very hard to do that. And I think a lot of us are that way. So if you create content, just remember, like, less consuming, more creating content, or create the content first, then consume. Last up on the ins is mood journaling. I also talked about this on the journaling episode, which you can go check out if you would like more, like a deeper dive on this. But there's something so powerful about just letting yourself journal when you want to, when you are in the mood to journal, which is what I do right now. You do not have to be someone who journals every single morning. You don't have to be regimented with it. You don't have to describe everything that you did that day. Unless you want to, then of course you can. But just journal when you want to. It's fine. And if you go for a month without journaling, who cares? Now we're going to move over to the outs. Okay. Authors creating pity content. I shared about this on my stories and I had someone DM me. It was like, what is pity content? So I want to clarify this. Pity content is when authors make something up in order to gain sympathy and pity from people who are then more likely to comment, follow them, buy their books, etc. This is not, if something genuinely bad happens and you're sharing about it on social media and you're going through something hard, that's different. I'm talking about authors who are lying, who are making up sob stories and crying on the internet because they want to get something from it. There was a woman who went viral on TikTok for, she portrayed it like she was having a phone call with an editor at a big publisher. And she was recording this phone call. The video was her holding the phone on the call, and the video opened by saying, with the editor saying, yeah, we loved your book and we would love to offer you a book deal. And the woman, like, in excitement, she gets all happy. And then the editor continues, but you just don't have the number of social media followers that we would want. You just don't have a big enough platform. This is kind of ideally where you'd want to be. And then her whole face just, she's so sad. She's so disappointed. She was so close to getting a book deal, but she doesn't have the social media followers. And the whole point of the video was to stir up sympathy and pity and get people to follow her. And there were so many comments of people being like, this sucks. Like, traditional publishing sucks. This is horrible. You've just gained a new follower. If you publish your books, like, I'll buy it. It was made up. That is not how it works in traditional publishing. It was a staged phone call. Number one, you do not have a phone call for a rejection. Like, why would just think about this critically for a second. Why would an editor who's received your manuscript call you, not your agent, you, to tell you specifically, yeah, we liked it, but we can't give you a book deal? Number two, if you have an agent, which 99% of the time you need to have an agent if you're dealing with a traditional publisher, everything goes to your agent. So why would they be having a phone call with you without your agent? And number three, you don't need a massive social media following to get a book deal for fiction. This has been proven over and over and over again, and it is one of the most persistent myths out there. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that it might not factor into an editor. Like, if they're a maybe and they're thinking about offering to acquire a book and the author has a large social media presence, maybe that pushes them over to yes. I don't know. I'm not an editor at a publisher. But every month, you can look at Publishers Marketplace. There are authors with little to no social media presence who get book deals at traditional publishers. So this is just not true. And it's shitty. It's shitty energy to be putting out there, to be preying upon people, to be taking advantage of the fact that the author community is so supportive and lovely and loves an underdog. And all these people rallied around her, and her follower count went up a ton. And it was all a lie. So don't fall for that shit, number one. Number two, be careful. Like, use your common sense, use some media literacy. If you see someone on the internet crying about how, oh, my publisher is going to cancel my contract and make me send back my advance because I didn't make the bestseller list, or I don't have enough social, like, it's just not true. It's just not true. Okay, please. And if you are ever, I know that no one listening to this podcast would ever think about doing this, because we're all honest people in this community, but just don't even think about that as an option, because it's not, just don't do that. We're not doing that in 2025. Number two, using generative AI. I'm aware that there's a line between AI tools like Grammarly and using ChatGPT to write the book for you. I'm aware that it's a spectrum. I'm aware that it's a scale. I'm aware that some people cannot afford to hire an editor, so they use ChatGPT to create a manuscript that might not be edited and still have a lot of mistakes, or give them questionable feedback on their manuscript. But, whatever. I'm not going to police individuals using generative AI, or using AI in the book writing process. I just want to go on record and say, we're not doing it. Writing a book is a creative act. And if you outsource that creativity, you are not writing a book. Like, why do you want to write a book if you want ChatGPT to write the book for you? It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, no generative AI. It was never in my book. I did have a moment of questioning, like, am I thinking about this wrong? But I've since settled on no. Generative AI, at least, has no place in the writing community, and I'm sticking with it. So nope, not doing that in 2025. Okay. Oh, and also, just, I want to say, I really hope we can get to a place where, well, one of my fears about AI is publishers or people who churn out these AI written books will discover that there's a market for it, and I don't want that, because I don't want AI written books to flood the marketplace, and they already are. I mean, let's be honest. So I don't want to read any AI written works either. Like, I am staying far away from that, because I don't want to support that. I don't want this to be something that there's more of on the market. Next up is the books aren't political statement, or just keep politics out of reading and out of books and out of publishing and whatever. Aside from the fact that book banning is a very real thing that is happening in this country, at least in the United States, this kind of attitude is just naive and childish, in my opinion. Art is political. You cannot separate those things. And to say that you don't want people sharing political opinions or talking about their political beliefs just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, we're not doing that. Art is political. There are very real impacts that certain political parties and certain politicians are having on the book community that are directly impacting the next generation of readers and writers and creatives. So to say that, oh no, we can't talk about that, we shouldn't be talking about that, doesn't make any sense to me. Book banning is real, it's happening. Censorship is real, it's happening. So we need to be talking about this. Next up, entitlement. I guess what I mean by entitlement is, this is honestly one of the things I put on there that I wanted to talk more about, because I couldn't really fit it on the screen to say all this, but what I see sometimes, not a lot, but I do see sometimes on social media, is people who comment things on my videos or on other people's videos who might be working with authors in some capacity, like editors, beta readers, whatever, agents, literary agents. And they'll say things like, can you review this paragraph for me? And they'll type it out in the comments and they'll want feedback on it. Or I will get DMs from people who are like, this is my premise, what do you think about this? And they'll type out like a full paragraph or two about their book and they want feedback on it. Or can you tell me if my book idea is good and I should write it? And I realize that a lot of the people who probably do this are kids. Like they're just children on the internet, and they don't understand that that's not something you should be asking people to do for free. And there's also, and occasionally I will get DMs from people that they have like 6 questions for me that are very specific about their book. And I'm like, look, I love to be helpful, and I can direct you to resources that will help with this general topic, but I cannot give you specific advice about your book because I don't know your story. It would be disingenuous. It would be harmful, maybe, for me to tell you what to do with your book without knowing what the specifics of it are, without reading it. And unfortunately, I can't just read your book for you for free. So I guess that's what I mean by like this sense of entitlement. Or people who will, I saw once, okay, I talk about querying and finding an agent sometimes on social media, right? Because I've done it twice. I've gone through the querying process twice. I've found 2 agents. I have an agent right now. And so I talk about the process and give tips and stuff. And sometimes I'll have people be like, but specifically tell me how to get an agent. I don't know how to do it. Tell me how to get an agent. And I'm like, well, I am. Like, I can direct you to podcast episodes that I've done that talk about my experience with it, that give you resources. And they're like, no, but like, what did you put into this? There's no information on the internet. I can't find anything about how to find an agent. And it's like, okay, literally just Google how to find an agent, and there's tons of information. Like, to say that like, oh, there's nothing out there, will you just do the work for me? No, I'm sorry. We're all adults here. I understand asking questions because it can feel confusing at first, but just being like, do all this work for me. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to put. Tell me what agents to query. Tell me what comps to pick on a social media comment. Like, no, we're not doing that. So that's what I mean by entitlement. I have 2 more on the outs list. Next one is shame and guilt for not outlining. I actually want to do a whole podcast episode about this for pantsers because this is something that I'm encountering a lot with coaching clients lately. Or not a lot, because I don't have a ton of coaching clients. I cap it at like 4 or 5 coaching clients that I work with. But it's just come up multiple times where people who do not do a lot of outlining or brainstorming, and they kind of just want to start writing and like see where the story goes, sometimes feel a lot of guilt and shame about not using an outline and not really like doing a ton of brainstorming before they start. I was just talking with a client who was like, yeah, and I asked her if this was an editing client actually, and I asked her because I was thinking about something for her revision that she was going to be doing on her book, and I was like, well, have you done any outlining for this? And she was like, no, I should. I've tried to make myself do it. And like, listen, if that's you, I just want to tell you, you do not have to have a detailed, formal, structured outline where you plot everything that happens, every scene, every chapter in your novel before you start. You do not have to do that. That is a valid, great way to write a book if that's your process, but you don't have to. So I want to just give you permission, not that you need my permission, but maybe you do. that you don't need to feel any guilt and shame for not doing that. It's fine to just start writing and see where the story goes. As long as you know that your draft might be a bit rougher and you might have to do more in the editing process to tweak things. But that's fine. Last thing on the outs list is predatory marketing towards authors. Okay. Earlier, I think it was this year. Yeah. I did an episode where we talked about a certain person who was marketing a query boot camp towards writers that was like $500. And in that episode, and anytime I talked about it on social media, which I guess was like once, I don't talk about it very much, but I was like, look, the problem is not the $500 price point. There's probably a market for that. Like, there are people who will pay $500 to get knowledge of querying so that they don't have to go out and search for it. They just go through some modules and their information comes to them as opposed to them having to go seek it out. Like, that's fine. If they want some support, if they want, whatever. So I have no problem with the price point of it. There's a market for everything. Just like some editors charge $300 to edit a book who are newer and just getting started maybe. And some editors will charge $9,000 to edit a book. It's a spectrum, and there's a market for either of those price points. But what's predatory and what really pisses me off is the marketing, where this Query Bootcamp, or even not even focusing specifically on the Query Bootcamp, but just other things towards new writers that are marketed as, I've got the secret. They don't want you to know this information. You have to work with me or purchase this course or whatever to get the insider knowledge, because this is going to give you a leg up and help you get a 6-figure book deal after you land an amazing agent, etc. That is predatory to me, because when it comes to querying specifically, you could have the most perfect query letter on earth that has literally ever been written. You could target every perfect fit literary agent. You could tailor all of your query letters to have a really nice personalization. You could follow all the rules and not get any interest at all if your manuscript is not where it needs to be. So in that case, you've wasted the time and the money to do all of this stuff when your book isn't ready and you're not going to get an agent. So it just is backwards. If you're going to spend money, if you're going to spend $500, I think it's a better idea to spend $500 on an editor or some kind of course or something that's going to just make sure that your manuscript is solid, right? But again, if you want to spend $500 on that, that's your prerogative. That's fine. It's just the marketing that feels predatory. And I see this sometimes with, I don't know, people who love to talk about, they love to scare people with misinformation. Like going back to that whole social media followers thing about how you need to have a massive social media platform to get a book deal. I'll see ads or content, usually for men, who are like, they don't want you to know this, but this is an insider secret for the traditional publishing industry. They're gatekeepers and they won't even look at your book if you don't have a platform. So follow my 7-step content secret to go viral on social media and gain followers before you query, because you're never going to get a book deal if you don't follow this method. And it's like, okay, just settle down. That's not accurate at all. And it's easily Googleable. You can easily Google it to verify that you don't, in fact, need to be going viral and having a huge social media platform to get a book deal. It all just feels very predatory to me. And it takes advantage of the fact that people just might not know any better, who are new to the writing community, who are new to writing. And it stirs up pain for people. There's so much psychology behind marketing. And when I was getting started in the online business world, I was taught by multiple people to use pain point marketing, which is you stir up, you agitate people based on their pain points. What pain are they experiencing? What's happening in their life is causing them distress. And then you market that you have a solution for those things. It feels shitty to do that. So I don't do it. But it's I see it a lot, and we're not doing that for 2025. If you see that kind of marketing, if someone makes you feel like shit and only they can solve your problems, then they're probably not someone you want to support or follow. I don't know. I think it's pretty simple. I try not to make people feel like shit in my content or is a way to get people to work with me. I'm not the guru. I don't know everything about writing. I'm not the most, I have all this knowledge that I've gathered and only I can help you. That's not how this works. I'm just here if you want someone to give you feedback, if you want someone to work with you on your book. I have a lot of experience doing this. I know what I'm talking about. I'm an expert in the editing part. So I can help you, but I'm not, I don't know. I try not to do that in my marketing or my content. But anyways, those are, let me just double check. Those are all the ins and outs for 2025. I'm sure that I missed some, but the screen for the video was small. I didn't want to overwhelm it and do 25 ins and outs. So anyways, that was kind of an episode that was all over the place with my thoughts on 2024 and 2025, and also just the ins and outs. So if you want to do some intention setting for 2025, I highly recommend taking some time to do this. And even if you're listening to this episode later, it's the end of January or something, who cares? You don't have to figure things out and set on your path to January 1st and that's it. you missed your chance, you still have time. So, okay, well, happy holidays. I hope you've had a fabulous New Year's, and I'll chat with you soon.